For the time being, each and every chapter of Deltarune ended with some crazy plot twist or a cliffhanger at the very least. Yet this all changed with the arrival of chapter 5. To be fair, a cliffhanger ending is very much present in that one too. It's just that it isn't the one most of us got on our first playthrough. The actual normal ending, in fact, finishes by a hope-filled and heartwarming montage, accompanied by some gorgeous Fields of Hopes and Dreams on piano. Or does it? The song, for some mysterious reason, is called Scarlet Forest in the OST. And I do believe that the scene itself as well hides one such terrible secret. If that might have been a bit overtly dramatic, I wonder. Anyway, what I meant to say is that my read on the scene became, after some thought put into it, darker, yet... No, maybe those words aren't the best fit. Simply put, when I watch this scene now, the most prominent feeling building up inside me is plain old sadness, and it has everything to do with Susie. But to explain why, looking at what comes right before seems like a reasonable notion. It is night time, and the second Dark Fountain has just been sealed away. Yet there is no space for celebration, due to Asgore being kidnapped by the Night Witch makes with Blackened Knife. Not to mention the sort of death which befalls the best character in the game, Change My Jorona. There is no longer anything for the heroes to do, and thus Susie requests Chris to walk her home, which they end up doing with or without our cooperation. For some reason, on my first playthrough I checked both her apartment and Chris's house before it actually occurred to me what did she really mean by home, that being the closest dark world, our castle town. Anyways, just in front of the school door, Susie starts contemplating how for the longest time she wanted these adventures to be only between the two of them. A shared secret that is the proof of the specialness of their bond and their friendship. She then cuts off after asking Chris whether they feel the same way, proceeding to explain herself only the moment just before their goodbye. I guess what I meant to say is, Chris, this can't just be our adventures anymore. People are in actual danger. Your dad is in actual danger. We can't mess up anymore. We have to tell someone. While I was reading it, what I thought she meant by this was that they can no longer consider these endeavors to be just adventures they can bond over and have fun with anymore, as they are a very serious thing now that they can't be sure they can handle all by themselves. I thought that Susie herself will be the one to willingly end the fun and games part of Deltarune by telling an actual adult of what is happening and asking for help. You can imagine how let down I was when Susie suggested that the only other they need to tell was one Noel holiday. Don't get me wrong, I am not at all implying that Noel should be kept in the dark. In fact, she should have been told the truth all the way in chapter 2, and so coming clean even now is definitely a step in the right direction, but not nearly enough compared to the gravity of their situation. For the matter of fact, I am of the opinion that Susie still truly doesn't realize the scope of whatever it is happening, and when she told all those things about people being in actual danger, she hadn't yet internalized any of this and is only subconsciously using the fact as an argument to convince Chris to let Noel join their party. As this is a pretty serious claim, I better show some good reasons for why I think that, for which we need to go live deep into Susie's psyche. Let's try to imagine how all the experiences might have felt from her perspective. For her entire life, it seems, she has been treated as someone to be feared and loathed, rather than loved. She has never been picked or chosen for anything, nor did anyone expect anything good from her. The times she made an effort to show others she isn't just a bully, she would be rejected, quite brutally so, and thus, eventually she ended up internalizing everything to a high degree, because it was safer and easier that way. She wore the bully persona like an armor so that she could hurt others before they did so to her. It was a semi-stable lifestyle, one which she was very familiar with, but that didn't change the fact of how miserable she was. And this is how we first see her, on an October Thursday where she is entrusted by Alphys to retrieve a piece of chalk from a school closet alongside Chris. And suddenly, her whole life flips upside down. Or perhaps it was always upside down, and only now returned to its natural orientation. In the scope of a single afternoon, she managed to make 3 whole friends, which is likely more than she had during her entire lifetime. It is no wonder that the next day she is so anxious whether the closed dark world will still be there. She no doubt fears that if it turned out to be a normal closet once again, she would not only lose Lancer and Laurel say, but her friendship with Chris would be annulled as well. However, her worries were proven quite unnecessary, and in fact things were going to get even better for our Purple Dragon Lady. The next day she got the opportunity to make an additional friend or 2 depending on whether you count the Blue Feather Genius, and she finished the day with her first sleepover in a long time, which turned out to be yet another amazing adventure in disguise. I am not saying that during all this time there weren't any instances of anger, struggle or sadness. The ending of chapter 3 especially was a great moment of defeat and hopelessness for her, but even then she regained all her spirit at an almost alarming speed. And that is because no matter how much hardship she endures, it is nothing compared to what was. Now she has friends to share the burden with, and a clear finish line that she can strive for. Both things she so painfully lacked just a few days prior. But it goes even further than that. If every time things went as smoothly as in the Card Kingdom, it would quickly become repetitive if not outright meaningless. However, as long as the stakes are ever growing, then so is the thrill of it all. Chapter 4 also solidifies this, since it strongly reinforces her role as the second hero with hope crossed on her heart, at least in her mind. You see, even with the things slowly getting more and more dire, Susie is still living out her fantasy. She is a hero she never thought she could be. So how could she let other people's misfortune destroy her hope, if she is going to save them all in the end anyway? That is why she doesn't even contemplate telling everyone in order to give them a better chance to protect themselves, or even just asking for help and advice from one dependable adult would have been much better than nothing. However, Noelle is the only one Susie intends to enlighten, and the reason isn't her strength or even the fact that she has already been to a dark world. No, it is simply because Susie wants her to be a part of their fantasy. I mean, this isn't even that groundbreaking of a claim, is it? Why else would she invite Noelle and not Burley, if not for the simple fact she doesn't like him nearly as much? What this would mean is that, unbeknownst to her, Susie still remains stuck in the our secret thing mindset, just with one more person in the loop. A few side notes before I continue. I don't mean to criticize Susie in any way, quite the contrary. I am trying to appreciate the depths of her incredibly compelling character, and I want to get to the very bottom of what is driving her behavior. I also don't intend for it to seem like I am putting all the responsibility on Susie. Chris, of course, is directly involved with the plot, so if anything bad happens, they are much more to blame than her. However, this was never about who is the most at fault here. The video is about Susie, and so it will be her choices that will be put to scrutiny. She is stuck in her fantasy. But is that necessarily a bad thing? After all, she changed so much for the better just in the past few days, and yes, that is true. But even though people can make great changes in their behavior really fast, as long as the circumstances they find themselves in have also changed, the driving mechanisms behind their actions are much more resilient than that. and although they can be put on sleeper mode, they remain waiting for an impulse to get back on the old rails. And for Susie, that impulse will be in the form of her fantasy crushing. And the question is not if, but it is when, why, how, and maybe most importantly of all, what will Susie do after it? You know, it is easy to stay hopeful when everything is going well for you. Susie in quick succession found friends, purpose, love, all things she did not have prior, so of course she assumes all will end well eventually. But I don't think this kind of hope is what the old man meant when he entrusted her with using her own white pen of hope, because it is fundamentally fragile. Your life just cannot go uphill indefinitely. One day something will for sure break, and alongside it every bit of the naive hope for happily ever after. Whatever happens, it will be really hard for her. She might feel like nothing really changed and start reverting back to her old ways. But things did change. Her friendships, however strange, are definitely real, and the only reason they were even created in the first place is because she herself did change. And no matter to how deep shize everything goes, it is only she who gets to decide whether she will change once again. And that, in my opinion, is the meaning of the white pen of hope. But picking one up is no simple task for sure. It gets, however, significantly easier were you to enlist help from someone, help from a loved one. I, as much as the old man, have enormous faith in her, that she will manage to seek and find the light at the end of the tunnel. A better ending, even if it's not the one she had initially in mind. However, I am still of the opinion that she is not up for the task yet, and needs to grow just a little bit more. The very last moment we see her before the credits montage was what hammered this down for me. I mean, it is sweet that she found a better home compared to whatever her old one was, and I am not arguing that spending a few nights there is necessarily bad for her. However, every time I see her shutting herself in the closet from the entire outside world, I can't help but have a very bad feeling about it. I don't know, perhaps I am reading too much into it and this was never a metaphor for hiding in your fantasy and hide from the real world. Maybe I'm projecting too much. However, until chapter 6 comes out, that is only for you to decide. So to recap, what I'm arguing for in its entirety is that Susie is still largely oblivious to the severity of the situation hometown is in, and doesn't want to admit to herself that she might not be able to handle everything just with her teenage friends, and that she could really use some help and direction from someone older and wiser like Father Alvin, for example. And all that is because her life got infinitely better so fast that she kind of lost contact with the ground itself. But once she inevitably flies too close to the sun, the fragile wags holding her wings together will melt and she will fall deep enough to reach terminal velocity. And after the impact, the only way she'll be able to recover anytime soon is with help and support from the friends she made along the way. And with this, we reached the end. I sincerely hope you enjoyed this video, even though it was a little different. And if you did like it, please like it, because the more people like it, the more boosted will the algorithm and my motivation alike be. Just like that. Subscribe if you want to see more stuff like that, and comment if you have anything meaningful to add onto the discussion. Goodbye.